Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we're talking the great backyard bird count. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Frank. It's great to be here.
So I've got to admit, I'm kind of new to this. You've got to tell me.
Mr. Mayor, welcome back to Albany.
Lovely to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Well, anyway, I
My first job in Nashville, worked as a bartender.
Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Judy Shields here. Today we welcome one of the hottest rising country music stars and also rock star, Chaz Collins. Hey, thanks for joining us today.
How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and I am so glad that you've joined us. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to be talking, there's a really interesting ranking of the graduation rates in schools in New York State. We'll talk about that in our local schools. You can send in at any time your local school district and let me know, and I will tell you the rank of their graduation rate. I saw that yesterday on Empire Report. It's pretty fascinating going through each of the schools in this district and seeing where they are between 1 to 670 based on 2025 graduation rates. We'll talk about that. Blakeman receiving the nod to run for governor as on the Republican ticket. We'll tell you a little bit about that later on. And Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who was just appointed as the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee, he had a little, what would you call it, back and forth. He got the question, none other than New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. And we'll play that clip for you a little bit later on. And we have a special guest to tell us all about the Great Backyard Bird Count, which starts tomorrow. So we'll be talking with Becca Bish in the 7 o'clock hour. First, let's go to viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I got a NYSEG alert on my phone, and this is what it stated. It's been cold out. Your bill may reflect that with increased energy use and higher market supply costs. We are here to help you understand why and what you can do next. So the why is clear. It's because of Hochul. And the next is to vote her out. Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I'm sure we're all going to be receiving those alerts or dreading opening our gas and electric bills. Okay, a couple breaking stories from last night. The Pentagon has reportedly ordered a second aircraft carrier strike group to prepare to deploy to the Middle East in support of potential military action against Iran. And we'll talk a little bit more about that potential military action against Iran later on. But President Trump has not yet given the carrier group the green light to deploy, but an order could be issued in a matter of hours. This coming in last night around 1 a.m. The deployment would likely come from the U.S. East Coast, and one carrier is being prepped to head out to sea in 2 weeks, an official told the Wall Street Journal. The USS George H.W. Bush is currently conducting training exercises off the coast of Virginia and could be the carrier that ends up deploying. The warship is capable of launching F-35 stealth fighter jets, which would likely be needed for a strike inside Iran, according to the outlet. Now, that ship, the USS George H.W. Bush, would be joining the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group that is already in the region. Trump has repeatedly threatened to use military force against Iran over the regime's killing of protesters. And again, we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. But that breaking story coming in last night that the Pentagon orders a second carrier strike group to prepare to deploy in the Middle East. Also yesterday, we received the news that U.S. employers added 130,000 jobs in January, which is a very strong start to 2026. This was, as they always say, not expected. Blew past expectations. There's always very high expectations when a Republican is in there so that they can criticize the job the Republican president is doing. But hiring in January blew past expectations, signaling that the labor market could be picking up and likely dashing hopes for an interest rate cut at the Federal Reserve's meeting next month. U.S. employers added 130,000 jobs in January, a rapid pickup in pace from December, and far exceeding expectations of 55,000 jobs. Now, the unemployment rate ticked down slightly to 4.3% from the 4.4% the previous month. So we'll talk even more about that later on. I'm just giving you the breaking stories to kick off the program. Okay, I have a couple of update stories from the last either couple of shows or last couple days. Oh, the other thing, how did I forget to mention this? I want to hear your thoughts on the hearing with Pam Bondi. I thought I had that on my list to mention. So Bondi, what did you think? Oh, this is so nice. I'm going to save that comment. Hold on. That's such a nice comment. I'm going to save that for the next segment. The SAVE Act passed the House. Did it end up passing the House? I had that here too. The House of Representatives, thank you. Thank you for moving my breaking stories around. The House of Representatives passed a massive election integrity overhaul bill yesterday, despite opposition from the vast majority of Democrats. The House passed Representative Chip Roy's Save America Act that's aimed at keeping non-citizens from voting in the U.S. federal elections. Get this. So think of how bipartisan this should be. That it's aiming, this legislation, the SAVE Act, aiming to keep non-citizens from voting. So you have to show an ID scenario. All but one House Democrat voted against the bill. That one House Democrat, Representative Henry Cooler from Texas. The bill passed 218 to 213. It's an updated version of the Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility Act, the SAVE Act, also led by Chip Roy, which passed the House in April of 2025 but was never taken up in the Senate. Whereas the SAVE Act would create a new federal proof of citizenship mandate in the voter registration process and impose requirements for states to keep their rolls clear of ineligible voters. The updated bill would also require photo ID to vote in any federal election. It would also require information sharing between state election officials and federal authorities in verifying citizenship on current voter rolls and enabling the Department of Homeland Security to pursue immigration cases if non-citizens were found to be listed as eligible to vote. Democrats have attacked the bill as tantamount to voter suppression. Chuck Schumer calling it, Jim Crow 2.0 recently. Now, Republicans argue, and I think effectively, that it's necessary after the influx of millions of illegal immigrants who came to the U.S. during the 4 years of Biden, and you see with sanctuary cities and sanctuary states where this could really become an issue. Representative Mike Herodopoulos, a Republican from Florida, said if we want to rebuild confidence again in American elections, we need to pass the SAVE Act. What better way to eliminate that distrust than to make sure that whoever votes is an American citizen who is truly eligible to vote. House Minority Whip Catherine Clark, a Democrat from Massachusetts, accused Republicans of trying to make it harder for women to vote. She argued that the legislation would make it more difficult for married women to cast ballots if their surname is different from their maiden name on their birth certificates. She said, quote, Republicans aren't worried about non-citizens voting, really. They're afraid of actual American citizens voting. Why? Because they're losing among women. This is a minefield of red tape that you have to put in front of women and American citizens and their right to vote. This really is about feeding the narrative. The Democrat, Hearn, now why? Kevin Hearn said the reality is this is really about feeding the narrative that Democrats want illegally from all over the world to come here to support them. That's a weird way of wording that. If implemented, the bill could see new requirements imposed on voters in this year's November midterm election, but it would have to pass the Senate, where current rules dictate that at least several Democrats are needed to meet the 60-vote threshold to overcome that filibuster. So yes, the SAVE Act did pass in the House, but has quite a hurdle in the Senate. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, even though I had it in my paperwork. But I was going to go to some kind of non-as important issues, though we do have a lot of important issues to get to, both nationally, internationally, and state and local. But this is an update from a story that we've continued to bring to you, and I just thought it was a really good way of kind of condensing the information. And I've asked, and I don't think anybody has commented that they went and saw Melania, the movie, yet, waiting till it gets into your home theaters, which I am of that same category. I'm not a big theater goer. But Ingrid Jaquez says, if you needed an example of the disconnect between legacy media and the country at large, look no further than Melania. The critics hate it, giving it a lousy score of just 10% according to Rotten Tomatoes, Compare that with a 93% score critics gave the 2020 documentary Becoming, about former First Lady Michelle Obama. And as we said before about this, and the reason I mention it just is to show that disconnect, and we're going to give you an example of that when it comes to the media, well, a couple times throughout the broadcast, but that these critics, even if they saw the movie, which I doubt some did, they went in with these lousy ratings before the film even began. But the Americans heading to the theater to watch Melania, vastly different takeaway. They've given it a score of 99%. This discrepancy has broken the film rating site's 27-year record. So not in 27 years has there been such a disconnect between the critics and the people that have went to see the film. Rotten Tomatoes sums up the critics' reviews this way, quote, presented with great pomp and circumstance but little insight, this documentary purports to be an up-close view of the First Lady while curiously revealing very little about her. The audience synopsis, on the other hand, quote, an observational behind-the-scenes look at the First Lady during the president's inauguration. Melania is as polished as its subject, elegant, charitable, and gifted with a famously distinctive fashion sensibility. Other audience meters confirm the film's popularity. Market research firm CinemaScore gave Melania an A grade. Think of the critic-audience divide on this documentary as a microcosm of the chasm between how the legacy media treats Trump and how much of the country views him. While media critics proclaimed they were bored to death by the documentary, many in the audience felt the film gave an inside look at the First Lady, someone who has historically stayed out of the limelight. Melania was released widely on January 30th, and in its opening weekend, as we know, smashed expectations, earning at least $7 million. That's the best opening for a documentary in more than a decade. Jeff Bach, senior media analyst for exhibitor relations, told USA Today that anything over $1 million would be a huge number and would indicate a lot of folks who don't normally go to the movies went to this. It really shouldn't be surprising that a lot of Americans, whether fans of Trump or not, were curious to learn more about the First Lady. But this isn't the first time the media has been snubbed, or that Melania has been snubbed by the media. And we talked about this numerous times on the program, the fact that she hasn't been on the cover of fashion magazines when so many other past First Ladies have, when she was herself a former model. But the widespread disdain exhibited by the mediaverse in response to Melania brought up the 2025 Vanity Fair's global editor-director, Mark Gudicu, when he created the hullabaloo when he reportedly wanted to put Melania on the cover of the magazine. A Vanity Fair editor told the Daily Mail, I will walk out the blanking door and half my staff will follow me. That's just if they put Melania on the cover of Vanity Fair. We are not going to normalize this despot and his wife. We're just not going to do it. We're going to stand up for what's right. Vanity Fair's sister, Condé Nast, Vogue, has often featured First Ladies. Michelle Obama featured 3 times. Jill Biden, twice. But how many times has Melania been on? 0. Now, she has said in the past she doesn't want to be on. Not that they've invited her, but that's not interesting to her, that she has important charitable work to do. The media will not learn anything from Melania, the documentary, but if they're willing to glean something, it should be that marketing to conservatives and the 77 million Americans who voted for Trump can pay off. I thought that was a nice little update from a story we've been bringing you quite a bit lately, and the numbers there. We've got a couple other things. We are going to dive deeper into some legislation, tariffs. Republicans, 6 House Republicans defied Trump to block the Canada tariffs. We're going to talk about Iran. Out of New York, Blakeman received the go-ahead. He will be running as governor. We'll talk about that. And what else? Oh, like I said, we're going to hear from Phil Palmisano. You're going to love this. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona Sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
More lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
It's the tea party for Crystal with Miss Marshmallow.
Oh, wow.
And Sarah's first day of management training at Goodwill. When you donate to Goodwill, you help provide skills training and career placement. And the things you love start a new life too.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow end, maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Steve here. Hey, Steve. Isn't it amazing that Democrats can cause so much pain and suffering? The people with their policies that they implement, then they sit there and say that they're going to be the ones to fix the problems that they cause, but they never do. And then they attack the ones that actually try to fix the problems that have been caused. The use of fear tactics is a proving factor that allows the Democrat Party to continue. If people ever wake up to that truth, the Democrat Party would no longer exist, in my opinion. Thank you, Steve. Comment from a different viewer. Oh, this is in regards to the Bondi hearing. There was one Republican whose name or state I don't recall, but who sounded so much like a Democrat that I would have spit at my TV. He had gotten so heated up over the Epstein files that he actually became animated. What a loser. However, Pam did a great job with putting the Democrats in their place in spite of the fact that they would not let her answer their questions. I was proud of her. She did stand her ground, didn't she? But I think you're probably referring to Thomas Massey, because I know he has been very outspoken. Epstein's been going against Trump on nearly everything as of late, and because I think he's on his way out. I think he's retiring. But I don't have that exact. Yeah, it was Thomas Massey. The rest of the hearing flowed from here. Bondi was extremely combative throughout, doing whatever she could to avoid Democrats and GOP Representative Thomas Massey's questions about Epstein in ways that might seem politically unwise, according to CNN. We'll talk about that, but yes, that's who you were referring to. Oh, look at these waves. Okay, now I mentioned, another comment from a viewer. Jack totally agrees with Steve. There you go, Steve. And there you go, Jack. All right, this is such a nice one. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Well, you did it again. Saw your interview with Drumline live and had to go check it out. So glad I did. Such an energetic and talented group of musicians, singers, and dancers. And yes, they did fit everyone on stage and even went into the aisles and then brought it into the lobby after the show. A great, great show. Well, thank you, first of all, for sending that. That's such a kind message. I'm glad you went. They're a little too late for me just because of the work schedule here, but that was one that they normally pique my interest, but that one definitely did. You knew it was going to be a fun time, an energetic time. So I'm glad you were able to make it out. And I'm glad you had such a fun time at the Clemens Center. They've been having some great shows this year, and we've got more interviews coming up with their guests throughout the season. But yeah, I had a good feeling about Drumline Live, so thank you. A couple of quick updates. We have so much to mention this morning, but I wanted to we talked about the media bias so far this morning. Did you see, and obviously a lot of people are following that breaking news story of Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mother, and the search for her. I know there's constant updates throughout the day. Well, NPR's Morning Edition co-host, Steve Inskeep, compared the masked Guthrie suspect. I'm sure you saw those photos from, I don't think it was Ring camera, but it was some type of camera on her door. Compared the masked Guthrie suspect to ICE agents. Quote, so let me think about this. We have this man. He walks up to the porch. He's armed and his face is covered. A little like a federal immigration agent, although it's more covered even than that. He's wearing gloves, his head's down, other times heads up, something in the mouth, looks like a flashlight in the mouth, walks up to the security camera. That's what I see. Well, there you go. That's one way to look at that, to compare the suspect and the disturbing, that's the word I'm looking for, photos that were released, comparing them to ICE agents. Okay. He said authorities showed his in-laws a picture of someone wearing a mask, and they supposedly look like my eyes. Who's this referring to? I don't want to go through more of this. I think this is updated from further on in the case. But compared to ICE, that's the NPR. Speaking of ICE, in L.A., a grassroots organization that builds itself as a support group in a historically Hispanic neighborhood will be installing scores of what they're calling ICE raid alarms that its leaders say were inspired by influence from Minneapolis. The Highland Park Community Support Group, helmed by Amanda Alcalde, will scatter an indeterminate number of the alarms on multiple streets in the neighborhood. Alcalde told the outlet that the alarms, which look like tiny red spotlights, will blare when Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents are in the area to give people time to take shelter. Now, of course, we've talked so many times in the past. Remember, there was that one ICE agent started yelling at protesters saying you are literally helping I think it was a sex offender, escape right now. So ICE raid alarms coming soon to a historically Hispanic LA neighborhood, and one other, well, not necessarily one other. I don't know if you've seen this video. I'm assuming it's going to go viral. But this was in North Carolina. A state Republican representative there, Alan Chesser, was taken aback. He was interviewing a Democratic sheriff who has long opposed cooperating with ICE. So he asked a simple question. He said, what branch of government do you operate under? Sheriff McFadden, who is the top law enforcement officer in the county, where, and this was in reference to where the young Ukrainian woman, Irina Zarutska, remember in Charlotte, that is his district. That is the area he's in when she was murdered. So what branch of government do you operate under? The sheriff saying Mecklenburg County. Then asked again, he said the Constitution of the United States, to which Representative Chester finally responded, that is what establishes the branches of government. I'm asking what branch you fall under. McFadden answered Mecklenburg County, again, where finally Representative Chester remarked, this is not where I was anticipating getting stuck. Are you aware of how many branches of government there are? And the sheriff quickly shot back, no. So ask the question, are you aware, well, not knowing which branch he serves under, and are you aware of how many branches of government there are? The sheriff, I guess, proudly said no, this anti-ICE sheriff. Chester continued, for the sake of debate, let's say there are 3 branches of government, legislative, executive, judicial. Of those 3, which do you fall under? And of course, that's not open debate. That's what, and I know he's saying that tongue in cheek. The sheriff answering, I believe I fall under the last one, judicial. Where Representative Chester finally said, you were incorrect, sir. You fall under the executive. Then they continued to talk. So not even knowing what Chester has called a 5th grade civics question is the voice of the anti-ICE, is a voice of an anti-ICE kind of movement, and that's that anti-ICE Sheriff McFadden. Wow. Chester, who is an Army veteran and former police officer, said, obviously, those aren't the cache of questions that I was thinking we were going to get him to, or get him on. I had several statements that he had made to the media and to the local press and in different interviews that kind of conflicted with some of the testimony that he provided yesterday about following the law. We made it to only one of those statements because we got held up on what I thought was baseline, just kind of settling a baseline of how we were establishing that this role is to enforce the law. I was not expecting to have to get into 5th grade civics lessons with a duly elected sheriff. He said that McFadden had decided to make himself kind of a centerpiece in the refusal to enforce immigration law in North Carolina. It's not so much the refusal to enforce immigration law, but it's the refusal to enforce state law that says he must cooperate with ICE and ICE detainers when people are in custody in his facilities. Anyway, you get the idea. Just a kind of a quick overview on ICE. All right. We've got a couple of other breaking stories. We're jumping all over this morning. Stay with us. As we said, the SAVE Act passed the House. Still needs to get through the Senate, but that's a big move for election integrity. We also are going to talk about tariffs. Pam Bondi, I know a lot of people are outraged, and that's the problem with those hearings. They've become so much about grandstanding. You have Democrats who aren't really looking to get to the bottom of anything. They just want to get that viral video, much like we're seeing with Thomas Massie. Now, I know some like Thomas Massie in the past. He has went very kind of anti-Trump. We can talk about that and your thoughts about Thomas Massie. Also, a little bit later on, I hope we get a chance, we'll be showing you some of the local rankings of our school districts. It's kind of interesting. They put this out every year, and it's the graduation rates, 1 through 600, and what did I say, 70, I think? The ranking 1 through 670. Now, there's ties. There's more than, if you're at 100%, you're still at number 1. We'll get to all that a little bit later on. And we'll talk about Blakeman, and we're going to hear from Phil Palmisano, a clip from yesterday's hearing. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
When you're searching for an exceptional spirit, your journey begins here at Foster's. With our expertly curated selection, Foster's will help you find just the right wine or spirit for the occasion. Foster's. Elevate your spirits.
I'm Grace.
I'm Ida, and I lived in California.
To me, was just a puppy when I moved in. He's a emotional support animal.
I had Missy, who was 15 years old and blind.
Likes the people, he likes to greet all the people. All the employees are happy to see him.
I feel that my pets are very welcome here. I feel very welcome here. I think it's great.
Here's Bill. We gotta set ourselves up. Retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Let's put ourselves in the right position.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. You'll notice it is a little snowy out there. So please be careful on your way into school or your way into work. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As we mentioned at the beginning of the hour, the U.S. added a surprisingly high, they always say surprisingly, higher than expectations, 130,000 jobs last month, so good news coming there. All right, comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Did that one count? I think I missed the button. Good morning, Frank. It's disgusting, or disgusts me, to hear that a few Washington lobbyists are with the Rhino Republicans and are willing to block the president at every turn. The president's tariff policies aim to return America to an independent country, not subservient to the world. In my humble opinion, America needs to withdraw from most international organizations, such as the UN and WHO. Thank you very much. In that vein, what that viewer is talking about, 6 House Republicans defied Trump and blocked his Canada tariffs. Of course, they always put that defy. They use that loaded language again because for whatever reason, the left and the media want to portray this scenario where everyone needs to be a loyalist to Trump or they're scared of him. So they really want to vote no on everything, but they have to vote yes. I'm just using a hypothetical. They have to vote yes because they're scared of Trump. And it's a weak argument. It's to suggest that not only the Republicans in Washington, but really essentially the American people, the 77 million that voted for Trump, that they don't really like his policies. They're scared. It's a joke, but it's a weak argument that they use a lot. So that's why you see loaded language like defy but we'll continue. In a vote the GOP leaders fought hard to avoid, a half dozen Republicans sent a blunt message to Trump that they do not support the tariff regime that he has made the centerpiece of his second term. 6 Republicans joined with Democrats in the vote to effectively repeal the president's tariffs in Canada. I love that they don't ever, and I don't know what the reason being is, but they don't ever mention the 6 Republicans right away, but we will. On Truth Social, Trump said any Republican in the House or the Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously suffer the consequences come election time, and that includes primaries, said the president. Now, the 6 Republicans who voted with Democrats in the bid to cancel the tariffs were, again, the name keep popping up, Representative Thomas Massie, who's making a name for himself, maybe looking for that job on his way out the door where he can be on CNN, where he can be a Chris Christie type commentator who can badmouth the president and others and have a nice paying job because of it. So Representative Thomas Massie, Don Bacon, Kevin Keeley, Jeff Hurd, Brian Fitzpatrick, and Dan Newhouse. So there you are. Yes, Trump threatened consequences after they voted to reverse the Canadian tariffs. He argued that the trade deficit was reduced significantly while U.S. financial markets hit significant high points because of his tariff policies. In addition, tariffs have given us great national security because the mere mention of the word has countries agreeing to our strongest wishes. Tariffs have given us economic and national security, and no Republican should be responsible for destroying this privilege. Now, what's interesting, we mentioned the 6 Republicans. One Democrat, Jared Golden of Maine, voted with the majority of Republicans on the matter. It ultimately passed 219 to 211. It's not clear how much impact Trump's threat will have. Neither Newhouse nor Bacon is running for re-election, and Trump is already endorsing a primary challenger against Massie. Okay, I was thinking Massie was in his way out the door. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially with Trump endorsing a primary challenger already. We're not going to go through each individual Republican, but a lot of times Rhino Republicans' true colors will come out when they're reading the writing on the wall and they may be out. That's when you'll see maybe at one point very conservative and then changing to moderate to leans Democrat. Trump said yesterday that tariff has now become his 5th favorite word. I used to say it's my favorite word. They said, what about God? What about religion? And what about family and your wife and your children? So now I make it my 5th favorite word. That was at this event where Trump was honored with an actual award, too, as the undisputed champion of beautiful, clean coal on behalf of coal miners all across the country. James Gresh, the CEO of Peabody Energy, presented Trump with the award in the East Room of the White House shortly before the president signed an executive order directing the Department of War to prioritize buying power from America's coal industry. Gretsch said, to show our appreciation, the trophy says the undisputed champion of beautiful clean coal. And that's when he received a standing ovation for those in attendance, including the coal miners in attendance. Trump then signed the order, which the White House notes instructs the Department of War to, quote, prioritize long-term power purchase agreements with America's beautiful clean coal fleet to ensure military installations and critical defense facilities have uninterrupted and on-demand base load power. So receiving that award, and this ties into, I have time, when we come back, a piece kind of that ties in with this embrace of coal that I think you're going to like from Miranda Devine, and I know Climate Fact Friday, Bob will like it. But we also have, we have a lot of things to get to. Iran, New York, Well, we still got plenty of time. But we are going to hear from Phil Palmisano, probably either at the end of this hour or at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. And it's a clip from his hearing yesterday. We know that we were all excited yesterday that Phil Palmisano was appointed ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee. That means yesterday during the budget hearings, he had an opportunity to question one Zohran Mamdani. So we'll hear that clip, or we'll see that clip a little bit later on. And in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll find out about the Great Backyard Bird Count, which begins tomorrow. I also want to remind you, because this was kind of a breaking last-minute interview, tomorrow we're going to learn together, because I don't know a lot about it, about Corning Painted Post High School and their Winter Guard International. Again, I'm not overly familiar about it, but that's why we have these interviews. And I know that's coming up tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. So we'll tell you all about that on tomorrow's broadcast. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world.
Hey, you're sober? You drive.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
The best hot cocoa?
Ask Google. The best ski resort? Ask Google.
The best Jeep dealer?
Ask Google. We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Jeep in Elmira the highest Jeep dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Jeeps during our President's Day sales event.
Visit Ferrario in Elmira or at Ferrario.com.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Mark writes in, did you see where the Democrats are politicizing that Trump wants to block funding for that new bridge between Canada and the U.S.? Yeah, there has to be an agreement. It's a Gordie Howe Bridge, and he's saying that they have to kind of show respect to us, and there's some, I think, pay up kind of scenario. Well, Trump claims the bridge starts on Canada's land and ends on Canada's land. He is not paying for it. I'm not sure that part. I know that I think it starts in Canada, but then it ends in Michigan, right? But yeah, he doesn't want to pay for all of it. He wants them to respectfully pay. We had that story yesterday, but I don't have all the details in front of me, so I apologize. All right, comment from a different viewer. The Democrats are more afraid of the Democrat socialists than the Republicans are of President Trump. That's a very good point. Absolutely, they are. And they're running to the far left, but you won't see those headlines about Hochul being scared and others being scared or having to be loyal to the DSA. It's obviously the way the media works. We can't get through this whole piece, but I knew Climate Fact Friday Bob and all the viewers would appreciate it. Miranda Devine says Trump debunking Al Gore's climate fears has made the world a better place. The climate hoax is dead. 20 years after Al Gore's, you almost forget about this, apocalyptic movie, An Inconvenient Truth, the Trump administration has put the final nail in the coffin of the lie that scared a generation into believing the planet was about to explode into flames if they kept using fossil fuels. And what the White House calls the largest deregulatory action in American history, the EPA today, will repeal an Obama-era proclamation that has mandated greenhouse gas regulations for 17 years. The 2009 endangerment finding has been the primary climate handbrake on American industry, forming the legal justification for increasing punitive greenhouse gas regulations. Rescinding it would, quote, save the American people $1.3 trillion in crushing regulations, said Carolyn Levitt this week. With the EPA projecting an average savings of $2,400 per vehicle and further saving on farm machinery soon to be freed from the complex extra red tape that was required to restrict emissions. It will also end Joe Biden's enforced transition to electric vehicles by 2030. Now, that does not perhaps change the rules here in New York, but that's where we are at the Fed level. It's about time common sense returned to energy policy. During the recent bone-chilling winter storm that hit 200 million Americans across more than 35 states, it wasn't wind and solar that kept the lights on, but fossil fuel. We've talked about that before with the green policies coming out of Albany, that there's a reason why hospitals are allowed to have natural gas generators, right? And I don't want to get to all the specific numbers that Miranda Devine boils it all down to, but a Gallup poll found in 2024 only 2% of Americans cite climate change or the environment as their main concern. It's telling the green activists have been relatively silent in the face of a full-scale assault by Trump and his cabinet. Because if you look at New York, is a bellwether for it. It has been such disastrous policies. It's why people are leaving. It's why Mark mentioned at the beginning of the program, his NYSEG bill. And of course, we talked already about the undisputed champion of coal and that celebration that happened yesterday. He lauded EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin and his rapid-fire deregulation moves as the administration's secret weapon in his war against the war on coal. Biden and the radical left wanted to abolish coal, Trump said. They did everything they could, but on day one of this administration, I ended the war on coal. We terminated the Green New scam, and we withdrew from the unfair, one-sided Paris climate deal. He also boasted that he has saved 74 coal-fired powered plants from extinction and announced that the Tennessee Valley Authority has taken 2 coal plants off the chopping board. And then we've highlighted this a few times on the program. Billionaire activist Bill Gates has renounced climate alarm, declaring quietly last October that climate change will not lead to humanity's demise, and the global temperature doesn't tell us anything about the quality of people's lives. Finally, and we've been saying that for decades, maybe there are more pressing problems in the world that we could more usefully spend this money to solve. On Wall Street, environmental, social, and government stocks have fallen out of favor. Public disillusionment is happening as the underpinnings of the climate hoax has collapsed. In congressional testimony last week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent pointed to the monumental retraction of Nature magazine's infamous paper on, quote, the economic commitment of climate change, which claimed the cost of global warming would be $38 trillion per year. $38 trillion per year by 2049. It was retracted 2 months ago because Nature admitted the errors were too substantial for a correction. I bet you didn't hear that in the mainstream media. Bessent declared that the repudiation of the influential economic modeling laid bare the radical left's apocalyptic hyperbole on climate change. This fatally fraught paper, with errors far too substantial for even correction, has been frequently used and abused to justify bad policymaking around the world, undermining both energy abundance and better living standards. These days, when Energy Secretary Chris Wright meets his European and Australian counterparts behind closed doors, they confide to him that he may be right on the data, but the public still feels climate alarm is real. As he points out, that's because they've been lied to for a quarter of a century. The truth hurts, but it's better than the alternative. And it's something that many of us have been screaming from the rooftops for years. But unfortunately, and this goes back full circle to things we talk about all the time, when you have that kind of propaganda in the school systems where they're pushing global warming on the young people, those young people grow up to be terrified of global warming and climate change. And now many people seeing the errors of their ways, many not wanting to admit it. That's why when Bill Gates did, the media was relatively quiet because they want to push this lie, as so many people on this program have talked about over and over again. There's too many people making money off of these green energy policies. And we're seeing New York continue to embrace it. All right, we got to take a break. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, as I said. We're also going to hear about the great backyard bird count. We had the breaking news pretty much already this morning. The SAVE Act did pass the House. We got a few other things. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Month after month, year after year, even decades you've paid into the insurance system. You've done your part. But when you're seriously injured in a car accident or another tragedy, that system turns its back. Insurance companies care more about pumping up profits and stock prices than paying for your medical bills, your lost wages, or your recovery. At WDC Injury Law, we fight to make them pay what's fair. If you've been hurt in New York or Pennsylvania, call 607-500-HURT. Don't let the insurance companies win.
Allegiance from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
And it's the Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers regarding the anti-fossil fuel policies of New York State. Don't forget that the idiots pulling Hochul's puppet strings and Hochul herself also have charged billions of dollars in fines against oil companies. Yeah, what was it? How many billions? It was like $75 billion. And that was so frustrating. The Climate Change Super Fund, I think it was called, where what they were saying to companies that jumped through so many hoops to do things exactly the way they were supposed to do it based on the rules of New York State government. They did it. And then years later, Hochul comes back and says, you're not in favor anymore. We're going to fine you. And don't think for a second it didn't set a precedent for many businesses who already were probably not thinking of New York on their short list of places to move. Just was another kind of nail in the coffin there. Republicans are urging Trump to hold firm against the Democrats' DHS demands. I know I should have had this more with the ICE discussion earlier. Republicans' warning for President Trump is growing louder than the Department of Homeland Security set to shut down in just days. They don't feel public pressure to relent on an issue central to his campaign. Even as the White House is engaged with Democrats over reforms to DHS, a growing chorus of members have urged Trump and his team to play hardball and instead fight for GOP priorities like cracking down on so-called sanctuary cities in exchange for any Democratic demands on federal immigration enforcement. This coming from CNN. Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmidt, who golfed and watched the Super Bowl with the president over the weekend. Schmidt's view was the president didn't need to yield to the other party's demands, even with that critical funding deadline bearing down on Capitol Hill. Quote, "We should not be in any way, shape, or form kneecapping ICE," said Schmidt. President Trump ran on this issue. So again, I think this is a home game for us. If the Democrats want to continue down this road, it's just a loser for them. Kind of to that talking point that I've made where it seems like the Democrats have gone to the point where they're now defund the police when it comes to their activism in trying to essentially disband ICE. So will they stand strong? Speaker Johnson told reporters yesterday that the White House plans to soon send over new details to Democrats in their ongoing negotiations. I was at the White House 90 minutes ago talking about that very thing. The White House is sending over a few terms. I don't know if you'd call it a counteroffer, but they're in negotiations with Senate Democrats, said Johnson. We'll see how the Democrats receive that. All right. Some, like Josh Hawley, saying, "I've made clear I'm not going to support anything that I think is detrimental to law enforcement." Senator Bernie Moreno said in his view, Democrats can take the DHS appropriations bill or they can shut down FEMA, Coast Guard, TSA, Secret Service, and CISA. That's up to them. I want to offer anything. That's my point of view, he added. So kind of believe them to be in the catbird seat. There was a time when Democrats felt that too, that the Chuck Schumer, remember he was getting a lot of criticism for making the initial deals to keep the government open and then negotiating on DHS. They said, well, you just gave away our biggest leverage by agreeing to the other funding priorities. So what are we doing here? Now we're coming from a weaker hand. And I think to the Republicans' points here, that it's not good optics when you start running ads saying they voted to shut down TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA. So it does seem as if Trump and Republicans have the upper hand. We'll see how that all plays out. I believe tomorrow is the deadline, where we could see the DHS shutdown. Not the government shutdown necessarily, but the DHS shutdown. All right, we got some international issues to get to here to wrap up the hour. At the top of the next hour, we'll have that clip from Phil Palmisano. And yesterday, remember, he received the appointment as ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee. Well, he had the opportunity during the budget hearings to question Zohran Mamdani. So we'll play that clip for you coming up in the next hour. But we've got a little time left, so get those last second comments in. Stay with us.
Suburban Propane is here for your residential and industrial propane needs. Serving the surrounding area for over 95 years, we take pride in our reliable delivery service with 24/7, 365 emergency service answered by company representatives. Call today to start your Suburban Propane service.
Visit our page at Big Fox News for news, local events, and more. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Do you have fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Because even one attack.
The Frankly Speaking roof cam. What a beautiful view with that snow falling down, even though we're all a little sick of snow, I suppose, but it is a beautiful view of historic Marcus Street here in the Gaffer District. That view brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning, getting ready to wrap up hour number one. Now, deaths in Iran have reached, according to activists, deaths in Iran's crackdown on protesters, I should say, reached at least 7,000. We've had a lot of different varying numbers on this. But according to activists, about 7,002 people have been killed, with many more still feared dead. The slow rise in the number of dead from the demonstrations adds to the overall tension facing Iran, both inside the country and abroad, as it tries to negotiate with the U.S. A second round of talks remains up in the air as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pressed his case directly to President Trump to intensify his demands on Tehran in the negotiations. Quote, there was nothing definitively reached other than I insisted that negotiations with Iran continue to see whether or not a deal can be consummated. If it can, I let the Prime Minister know that there will be a preference, Trump wrote on Truth Social. Last time, Iran decided that they were better off not making a deal, and they were hit. That did not work well for them. Hopefully this time they will be more reasonable and responsible. Now, Senator, I'm going to talk more about Iran here in a second, in the next hour, most likely. Do we have time for both? Maybe we have time for both. Fetterman says that if Iran strikes are needed, he'll be the only Democrat who backs them. He was on Newsmax's The Record. Senator John Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, stated that if a second round of strikes on Iran, like Operation Midnight Hammer, are needed, he will be the one Democrat to absolutely say that's entirely appropriate. I absolutely was fully supportive and was cheering for that midnight hammer. And now, if that's required for a second round, I'll be the one Democrat to absolutely say that's entirely appropriate. I don't believe you can't really trust. The last time there was a treaty with Iran, they ended up with 900 pounds of just a step below nuclear weapon grade enrichment. So that's why we demonstrated last year that we can hit them. We know where they are, and we have the capabilities to reach them. And now here we are again, and that's why the Prime Minister's here, because I think we're all in lockstep to stand with Israel as our special ally. And that's why I'm proud to stand with the Prime Minister and now with the President too. If they do bring up another Iranian war powers bill, I will vote no, just like I did the first time they brought that up. So kudos to John Fetterman on that. Now, the Post editorial board believes that Iran's rulers plainly fear that the U.S. may strike. Trump should prove them right. And your thoughts on this? Iran is doing exactly what President Trump warned it not to do, slaughtering political prisoners, even as its rulers try to play rope-a-dope with U.S. negotiators even over its nuclear program. So what's the president going to do about it? Indeed, per video circulating inside the country, Revolutionary Guard gunmen are marching through hospitals and executing patients in their bed with a shot to the head, even while they had tubes hooked up, intravenous drip. This follows news of summary executions of prisoners swept up in the wake of the January protests. Tehran has also imprisoned a Nobel Peace Prize-winning human rights activist, a 7-year sentence with more to come, for spreading propaganda against the Islamic Republic. The Norwegian Nobel Committee announced Wednesday that Narges Mohammadi has now been beaten nearly to death. The regime also arrested a host of major politicians. This is the behavior of a ruling cabal desperate to get back in control of the country. Putting tanks and troops in the street has stalled the mass protests, but they can't stay deployed forever. Will the demonstrations resume once they pulled out? All this makes a mockery of Tehran's high-level talks with Washington. That diplomacy is plainly nothing but a bid to avoid U.S. intervention, while the regime attempts to reassert its normal totalitarian control. Meanwhile, Iran's bluster about consequences if U.S. forces strike to undermine the regime, a clear sign that Tehran believes America might be able to make a difference, and so erase President Jimmy Carter's shameful passivity as the murderous mullahs seized power back in 1979. This doesn't mean mass U.S. bombing is called for, and certainly not American boots on the ground. But U.S. intelligence ought to be able to identify some blows we can strike to help hasten the disintegration of the Islamic Republic. Trump urged the brave and noble people of Iran to protest and promised the United States would have their back. It's time to make good on those vows, give this repulsive regime the final shove it needs to collapse. Martin Gurry says, from Venezuela to Tehran, Trump keeps the world guessing to his advantage. Anyway, we could maybe read that later on, but we've got a lot more to cover. And this hour is through. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. He was in Albany yesterday. We're going to play that clip for you as he questioned Zohran Mamdani. And then later on, we're going to be talking with Becca Bish about the Great Backyard Bird Count, which begins tomorrow and runs through the 16th. You can find out more at birdcount.org. But you'll find out a lot more in the next hour, just a little bit later on. We've got New York State updates. We haven't even talked really about Pam Bondi's 5-hour hearing. We've got Bruce Blakeman is now the gubernatorial candidate. We can talk about that too if you want. So stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this.
Farming is demanding. Physically, emotionally, and financially. AIM's new program, Farmers Supporting Farmers, provides peer-driven mental wellness support to the farming and agribusiness community across the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes. We also assist with financial management and business planning. Our team understands the unique pressures of agriculture. We offer resources and guidance to agribusiness workers and their families. All services are free and confidential. To find out more, visit AIMCIL.com or call 888-328-7847.
Come to President's Day sale. 12 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this area our new floor covering store, conceived and offering the best possible value and dedicated to the proposition that not all floor covering stores are created equal. If you want the best experience, come to Cutler's. Remember, Cutler's has all types of floor covering and they are all on sale. I cannot tell a lie. Cutler's has the best selection, service, and installation. Hurry to Cutler's President's Day sale. We have a buddy in the flooring business.
It's the President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
We welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We've had some breaking stories this morning. As we said yesterday, the SAVE Act did pass the House. That's that voting rights measure to make it so you have a voter ID to vote, something that's been called for by Republicans for decades, but it still has to go through the Senate. So that could be a tough go. We also talked about I love it, blew past expectations. The job numbers, 130,000 new jobs. Well, of course, it's always blew past expectations because they always try to kind of fix the system against the Republican president. But defying doomcasters who predicted that AI plus tariffs mean disaster for American workers, the January employment news blew past expectations with 130,000 new jobs. Revised 2025 data show that the nation added only 81,000 jobs all of last year as the economy struggled to escape the Biden-era doldrums. So 2026 solid start suggests President Donald Trump's pro-growth policies are finally kicking in. Coming from the New York Post, the net gains come despite a decline of 42,000 government jobs, including 34,000 from the federal workforce. A shrinking public sector and growing private sector is exactly the right path for America. Yes, the nation needs a lot more. Manufacturing added just 5,000 jobs, positive progress, but not yet the broad reshoring the president has envisioned. And the good job news will paradoxically work against Trump's push for lower interest rates, as we mentioned in the 6 o'clock hour. But the economy still grew by nearly twice as many jobs as the experts had predicted. If this keeps up, voters' current anxiety about employment could ease before the November midterms. Crucially, wage growth is outpacing inflation, even as the Trump tax cuts are only beginning to become tangible for most workers. The nation has every reason to expect the president's rosy campaign vision of broad prosperity to become reality. And that ties in, again, feel free to weigh in on the Bondi hearing. I thought, obviously, it's despicable when they just keep shouting her down, not letting her answer, but it's so typical, that grandstanding and wanting to get that viral video for those on the left, that it just becomes kind of frustrating. And I don't want to fall into the trap of me trying to read a back and forth that Bondi said this, he said that. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the overall 5-hour hearing. We will look at the kind of the biased media and what they had to say about it. But with that piece that this could actually be beneficial, I still want to talk about schools, but in the midterms, the job numbers, Douglas Schoen and Carly Cooperman, opinion contributors at The Hill, said how weak are Republicans for the midterms? Likely less than you think. Now, they go through and talk about the whole history of midterm elections. But given Republicans' razor-thin majorities in the House, any net loss of seats would flip control. That said, predictions of a 2018-style Democratic landslide in which they won 41 House seats are probably too optimistic. This is not to paint an overly rosy picture for the Republicans. Midterms tend to be a referendum on the sitting president, and Trump's numbers generally unpopular. Still, the chances for a blue wave may not be as strong as assumed. As low as Trump's numbers are, Democrats' party favorability sits at just 33%, 9 points lower than Republicans and 10 points lower than Trump's favorability. That's something you never hear in those pieces, that they try to show you how bad Trump is based on these outdated polls. but they don't tell you that the Democrats' numbers are far lower than his. Second, the electoral battlefield has shifted considerably over the last 8 years. There are far fewer competitive districts now, and recent redistricting in a handful of states will have an unknown impact that may potentially benefit the Republicans on net. To quantify the decline in competitive districts, in 2018, about 3/4 of the seats Democrats flipped were in a competitive zone, meaning Trump had carried them by less than 5 points in the prior election. Today, only 14 Republican-held seats meet that criteria. And I don't want to get into the wonkiness of these numbers, but for now, Democrats seem content riding the growing blowback to the administration's heavy-handed immigration crackdown and lingering affordability concerns. But Trump is taking steps to try and limit that damage to Republicans. Critically, the full extent of Trump's backtracking and softer tone on immigration remains to be seen, and the White House will certainly make an affordability push closer to November. At the end of the day, Republicans are fighting an uphill battle to retain control of the House. Even so, the situation they find themselves in is not nearly as shaky as it was at this point in 2018, nor is Democrats' position as strong as it was then. And we know, according to the media and the message that they try to push, that you would think it's all over but the shouting. We've been saying that really since it started coming up, and I'm not even exaggerating. After Trump won in the landslide victory, they started to say, remember, midterms, because they want to paint him as a lame duck. So they were saying midterms are here, and then we start seeing stories of, a blue state senator winning a blue state, and then that's supposed to be some sign that the midterms are all but over. So that's just a quick couple takeaways. All right. What do we got here? Oh, hey, here's a nice comment. Well, this is perfect. This will be perfect. And again, we can talk about Pam Bondi. I think we're going to go to New York State. But if you want to talk about Pam Bondi's testimony, please feel free. I want to get to New York State because there's too much to cover there, and I don't want to run out of time. And we got a clip from Phil Palmisano. So here we go. Comment from a viewer. Good morning. Well, good morning. Please extend my congratulations to Phil on his Ways and Means appointment. Well-deserved. Yes, absolutely is well-deserved. And we were congratulating him yesterday. Big news. Now, Phil's not in today. I hope I made that clear. But next time he is, we will send the congratulations his way personally. I did send a message to him yesterday. And he was kind enough to send us this clip now that he is a ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee. Here were from yesterday's budget hearings.
Mr. Mayor, welcome back to Albany.
Lovely to see you, my friend. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Well, anyway, the first, sorry.
To business,
I keep talking. I'll just take up more time. No. My area I wanted to talk about, we talked about public safety and corrections, and you mentioned Rikers. Just for the record, I've been to Rikers. A number of my upstate colleagues have been to Rikers, so visited or saw the challenges. Last year in the budget, we passed a restoration of the 20-year retirement for NYPD and FDNY. Later in the session, we passed unanimously for New York City corrections officers and sanitation workers. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed that bill. When we talk about safety in our correctional facilities, we're talking about proper staffing. And here's the numbers. In 2021, there were 7,288 New York City corrections officers. In June of 2025, 4,975 city corrections officers. This is a dangerous situation for safety, both for staff and for incarcerated individuals. My question on this area, isn't this for proper safety, for fairness? Because if you're talking about staffing and recruitment, now you're going to have individuals, if they're looking to recruit, who are going to go to the NYPD and FDNY because they have the 20-year retirement, and they won't go to corrections or sanitation. And I kind of really want to focus on corrections just because of public safety too. But then on retention, once now you can go back to the 20-year retirement in NYPD or FDNY, you're going to have a continued out-migration of more corrections officers leaving the city because they want to take care of their families. Shouldn't this be something we advance for fairness, parity, and for safety inside our correctional facilities? Yes.
So I can follow up. Our team will follow up on the exact legislation. What I will tell you, however, is that the safety of corrections officers and incarcerated individuals is of paramount importance.
I appreciate that.
And I think that one thing I've truly appreciated from our commissioner is his commitment to that And additionally, just to share that we gave Department of Corrections and relevant agencies 45 days to develop a plan to come into compliance with a lot of these requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. I know, and I appreciate that. I'm concerned, the safety issues. I mean, there's legislation we've been pushing to protect female corrections officers from sexual assaults to make them more strict. But I wanted to pivot a little bit, but I hope you can get behind that, because that will help recruit and retain our corrections officers in the city to keep it safe for everybody. And it's an issue of fairness. Obviously, Mr. Mayor, one thing for sure, no one can say that you don't have an ambitious agenda. We can all agree on that. Whether it's the right agenda, that's where you're going to have some disagreements. But obviously, when you talked about the budget gap that you have, and certainly all your policies, you're talking about free busing, free childcare, so that's pretty ambitious. And with that budget gap, I know, and I heard you say we want to increase taxes. Everyone knows that. You want more money from the state. I think that's pretty evident, and we get that. But you do recognize, from being here, the state is in serious fiscal trouble as well. We're looking at a $27 billion 3-year out budget gap that needs to be addressed. We can't keep spending. Education spending keeps going up. Medicaid spending keeps going up. Those are going to continue. So it's not sustainable for the state of New York, and it's not sustainable for you. And you mentioned in your comments that, well, the top high income earners aren't going to leave, but they are. And especially with having the financial sector like Wall Street, the finance industry, technology industry. I mean, you see Dallas just opened up the stock exchange. You said you were confident these people are staying. Can you say with certain these high income earners who are leaving, can you say the financial sector is not going to leave if your policies are adopted for increasing taxes when they are leaving now, going to Florida, going to North Carolina, going to Texas? Isn't that a concern to you? And what happens with those individuals and that income? Because you could have people replace them, higher income earners leaving, but less income earners replacing them. That's a net loss. And I've seen numbers from $20 billion to $30 billion of net GDP loss.
So, I think that this conversation around capital flight is always a part of the conversation around any proposal to increase taxes. What I will say is that in 2021, when we had the same conversation, we were told there would be fewer millionaires as a result of increasing personal income taxes on millionaires.
But Mr. Mayor, I'm not talking about fewer millionaires. I'm talking about net taxable income. Because with those statistics, and I've seen studies, you have higher income earners leaving, but replaced by lower income earners, but you have a net loss of like billions of dollars, $20, $30 billion of taxable income. And if you don't have $20 or $30 billion in taxable income, that goes away. So then you don't have as much money for your programs.
Thank you.
We'll come back. Thanks, Alan.
And thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for sending along that clip as he gets to question New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. So again, congratulations. We've been receiving so many. I pass them along to Phil. So many people sending their well wishes as he is now the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee, and we'll be getting more videos like that. Okay, we have to take a short break. I see some comments coming in a little bit later on after this next segment. We'll be hearing from Becca Bish about the great backyard bird count. Also, before then, before we go to break, real quick, there's a article out, and you can actually search in real time New York school districts, where they ranked from 1 to 670 by their 2025 graduation rates. So if you have any questions about your specific school district and their graduation rates, I would love to pass them along to you. We can do some, generic's not the right word, but one that the bigger ones that we know, like Corning Painted Post, Horseheads, Elmira, whatever you want. But let me know. I'd be happy to pass those along because I find this kind of interesting and to see, because there are a lot ranked like number 1, for instance, because they had 100% graduation rate. So again, if you have any questions on that, send in your school district and I'll be happy to read that to you. But we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Comm Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
At the Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, we provide students with a variety of community-based and academic opportunities and a fresh start. Located on the Corning Community College campus, students earn high school credits and gain real-world experiences through community service, internships, art partnerships, and work opportunities, experiences they value for a lifetime. Our students find a place to reconnect and succeed. The Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, turning fresh starts into future success.
From Excel member service to easy, reliable, and secure digital banking and a deep commitment to the communities we call home, First Heritage is proud to be part of our members' everyday lives. That's why we're honored to be named Best Credit Union in the Twin Tiers 5 years in a row and Best Locally Owned Business in 2025. To our members, thank you for your trust, your loyalty, and your votes. And if you're not yet a member, visit fhfcu.org or stop by your local branch and see for yourself what makes First Heritage the best.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street and Corning. A couple comments from viewers. The SAVE Act should be a no-brainer, and that's to have IDs to vote. American citizens should decide American elections. Seems like a no-brainer, like you said. I hope the Senate will agree without making any major concessions. Well, it's probably one of those examples where a lot of people are going to be upset that they don't just get rid of the filibuster rule, right? Because they have to get to that 60 vote threshold, and I don't see Democrats going for it, but I'm often pessimistic. Comment from a viewer: I love that clip, Frank, meaning that clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano grilling New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani. He left him a little speechless. He sure did. Thank you. And I'll pass that along to Phil as well. All right. So Trump yesterday, before it was official that Blakeman would be the gubernatorial candidate, Trump praised Bruce Blakeman as a law and order candidate who will fight for New Yorkers in a surprise video endorsement. Quote, under his great leadership, Nassau County hired hundreds of new police officers and became the safest county in America. The safest county in America. That's a big statement. As governor, Bruce will fight hard to grow the economy, cut taxes, job-killing regulations, protect New York industry, and bring businesses and great-paying jobs back to the Empire State. Yeah, it's nice. Blakeman accepted the nomination yesterday. He is now the candidate for the Republicans. Now, as it was mentioned, and I don't know what happened in the final, if there's anybody that voted against Blakeman. I haven't been able to find the polls because, unfortunately, and I'm not saying this to be insulting, when you search Blakeman's name for recent news, not a lot comes up, which is probably worrisome in its own way. But we know that former third-party candidate Larry Sharp, who normally runs as a libertarian, said he is going to run and primary Blakeman. I don't know. That means he didn't get above. I'm sure Blakeman, I'm sure he got probably 100%. But that would mean Larry Sharp has to go out and take petitions. But Blakeman accepted the Republican Party's nomination for New York governor on Wednesday at the GOP convention in the Garden City. As he continues his battle against Hochul, Blakeman is sticking to a message that frames as a mission to save the Empire State. Quote, "The lunatic left is running the state," said Blakeman. He vowed to provide better schools, better roads, better hospitals, and money for infrastructure to aid our citizens and provide tax relief to New Yorkers who are crushed by high costs for too long. Blakeman has tapped Madison County Sheriff Todd Hood as his lieutenant governor, as we know. Hood said, "I see the consequences of a failed one-party rule. Let's be honest, New York is less safe and more expensive than it should be." Now, obviously, Blakeman is facing an uphill battle in the blue state, but a game plan was offered by former Governor George Pataki, who did serve 3 terms against all odds and is the last Republican to win statewide office. Quote, "We're going to win this race with Democrats and independents," said Pataki. What does that normally mean? A lot of times that means he's going to go more moderate. Maybe that's not what Pataki is saying here. Pataki said the case has to be made to all voters who are fed up with taxes and soft on crime policies. The people of the state are going to continue to have taxes that are too high, quality of life that's not what it should be, and too many of our friends leaving the state, Pataki said. You can win. You need a lot of Democrats to do that. The odds may be against us, but Democrats are fed up. The party of Bill Clinton, John Kennedy doesn't exist anymore. It's a socialistic party, said Nassau County GOP Chairman Joseph Caro. The race will be tough. He was 25 points down as county executive, but he won that. All right. So there we are. We are looking towards November with Bruce Blakeman, unless something unforeseen happens when it comes to Larry Sharp, which I don't see. It's weird if he primaries him. That's just a mess too. So Blakeman looks to be the candidate. He is. He's got the nomination, formally accepting the GOP nomination for governor. I know some people have equated that in a way to kind of getting rewarded for bad behavior. But that's where we are at, and we'll be happy to interview him in the future. We'll be happy to find out more about his campaign and keep you updated on his campaign as things unfold. Seeing if he said he's going to be coming to upstate a lot, which has its own issues there, meaning Elise Stefanik had the support of upstate. She could have focused her time downstate, but that looks as if Blakeman will have to kind of cast a wider net. So that happened yesterday at the convention. We have a couple things about Mamdani. We probably are going to have a second to talk about Pam Bondi's 5 hour hearing. I'm trying to see what else we had. Oh, I saw this today with an interview with Lutnick, and I just want to get your opinion on it. I'm not going to dive too much into it, but Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says he thinks it would be a great idea to have the post office do the census. Then you don't have to hire 500,000 people or teach them where everybody lives. The job of the census is to go to everybody's house and count everybody. 340 million people. So the census, we'd hire 500,000 people. We'd train them, rent them cars, give them gas, and they'd go out and try to find people. Which Department of the United States of America already has 500,000 people, already has cars, and goes to everybody's house every day. Oh, the post office. So here's the genius move. We are hiring the post office to do the census. I don't have to hire 500,000 people. I don't have to teach them where everybody lives, and they know where everybody lives. Interesting idea. Your thoughts on that? All right, we got to take a break. When we return, we're going to hear about the great backyard bird count. So don't go anywhere. This is Frankly Speaking here at WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Everyone knows William Attar. Everyone knows James Cook. But what you probably don't know is that they bonded when Bill suggested to let James cook.
Delicious.
And James said they should just share the number 4.
Nice.
Now they're teaming up to raise money for Build Promise.
Get this t-shirt at BuildPromise.com.
For a limited time, if you purchase this t-shirt, a portion of the proceeds go to Build Promise.
It's the Jeep and Stay sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
When it comes to cleaning your house or business, Magic Rags Cleaning Service has you covered from ceiling to floor. With powerful steam cleaning and attention to detail, we have you covered for moving out cleans, move-in cleans, Airbnbs, or just keeping everything neat and tidy. We go above and beyond in our residential and commercial cleaning, and our professional crew makes sure that your house or business is always ready for company. Call our number or schedule an appointment on Yelp or Facebook today.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we're talking the great backyard bird count. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Frank. It's great to be here.
So I've got to admit, I'm kind of new to this. You've got to tell me what is, for those that are watching that don't know, what is the great backyard bird count?
The Great Backyard Bird Count, also known as GBBC, not to be confused with a bake-off, but it's confused with that sometimes. Sure. It's a 4-day event in February. It's always over President's Day weekend or Family Day weekend in Canada. And it's 4 days where literally the world comes together to share birds. What are we seeing? What are we hearing? This event started in mostly the United States about almost 30 years ago, 29 years ago. Yeah, it's been going for a long time, and we just grow every year. We included Canada eventually, and now the event is actually global. We had over 800,000 people last year participate, and we're hoping for 1 million this year. But it's really just a fun opportunity for people to share the birds that they're seeing or hearing in and around their homes and communities, and kind of feel united by something that's really fun and vibrant and very accessible, right? Birds are everywhere.
Right. And I was looking on the website, and it says participatory scientists. So if we join, are we all scientists?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on my resume.
Exactly.
But for those of you, because I know we all love, especially this time of year, in hopes of spring, right? We start to look at the birds. What do you need to submit if you want to become that scientist?
Well, what's fun about this event is it's really easy. Many people now are fans of the Merlin app, which is a tool that allows you to ID birds, right? And so just using Merlin once over the 4 days and clicking "this is my bird" that I saw or heard or took a photo of, that counts as participating in the Great Backyard Bird Count. For those of us who really are super into birds, we watch them all the time, we like to make checklists, you can also submit checklists via eBird. So either tool, people can use them over the 4 days, and that counts as participating.
Well, and you mentioned that this started 30 years ago, so I'm sure without the app at that point, how has it changed over those 30 years?
A lot. Yeah. And actually, I always like to do a little brag that the success of the Great Backyard Bird Count is what resulted in the eBird and Merlin apps being designed. Because it was an opportunity to see, wow, people are really excited to share bird sightings. What if we were able to create a tool and a protocol where we can actually use those bird sightings for science and conservation? So yeah, the tools have changed. Way back when, people would use a relatively simple form, which I think some people do miss. on our website, but it's become a lot more involved now in some ways. Merlin's very easy to use. I really recommend that tool for beginning people.
Okay.
eBird's a little more involved. You kind of have to know your bird species and be able to identify them by sound or sight in order to record them. So the tool is a little more complicated now. The good thing about this, though, is that now, because the protocol is tight, the data's tight, we're able to actually use this research in a multitude of ways. So it really has a bigger impact today because of the tools that we've created.
Well, I'm sure. So this sounds like it's for everybody. You've got the one avenue that if it is someone like me, that I don't want to give you the wrong information, so I don't know all the birds. So that you've got the one app that will help you with that, and then the expert that can submit the actual information that they see. How much did this take off during COVID? Like, I know it's been going 30 years, but it must have been wild.
It was huge, yeah. I mean, we've had steady growth really since it started, but COVID was this really beautiful, though a hard time,
right,
a dark time for many, many people. It was also a beautiful opportunity for people to reconnect with the natural world in a way that maybe they just hadn't been doing for a long time, whether it was because their lifestyle was so busy, or they just weren't looking outside or going for walks as often. And COVID was an opportunity for people to feel connected through birds and the natural world in a way that was safe, right? You could do it alone. You didn't have to do it with other people.
You're outdoors.
So yeah, COVID was a big opportunity. And we've done a lot of social science research since then to find that engaging with birds and bird watching is really good for you.
Oh, I'm sure.
It lowers your blood pressure. It decreases anxiety and depression. It's a way to feel sort of connected and engaged with the natural world that isn't that doesn't demand a lot of you and is quite relaxing.
Yeah. When you sign up to take part in the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is February 13th through the 16th, do you have to sign up, or is it just using the app? You're already there. Wow.
Exactly.
You make this
Everybody
very easy.
should use. Sorry.
You make this very easy.
Yeah, exactly. So anybody who already is using Merlin or eBird, you've already signed up, right? It's just using the tools, because when you do create an account, you do have to sign up. You have to give your email. And the reason for that, some people do ask about that. And the reason for that is because this is data. This is science. So we need to be able to link it back to a location and link it back to an actual human.
That makes sense. And if you want to be a scientist, you have to provide all the information.
That's right.
So sign up. And you had mentioned the data is used for very productive reasons. What are some of the examples of that? Like, what do you, when you take all this, because it must be overwhelming, and I know the computer looks at it, but it must be overwhelming to kind of weed through it all and figure out what you've learned.
Yeah, what's really neat about the GBC data is it goes into a even larger database, the eBird database, which is recording birds 365 days a year all over the world. And you're right, a lot of that is kind of put through different algorithms and so forth for us to be able to make sense of. In 2024, we haven't calculated the number in 2025. It always goes up every year. But in 2024, scientists used the eBird data in about 248 different publications.
Oh, my goodness.
And yeah, this is an immense data set that is one of the biggest ones used today. And what's really neat about the bird data is that you can often overlay it with other large data. So you can overlay it with weather events and see how bird populations and abundance is shifting based on weather events that occur. Land use changes. When we overlay bird data with land use, what are we seeing in terms of where birds are moving, where they're seen, where they're not seen? Are they changing elevations in terms of where they're living? So honestly, when you look at the list of publications, it runs the gamut. There's an incredible amount that we're able to learn and see by using bird data.
It'd be kind of interesting this year because it has been so brutally cold to see how that affects it. Now, when you look at the numbers, because this is your business, you must get excited when the numbers come out. What are you looking for specifically? Is there one data point where you're like, I wonder how this has changed?
Yeah, I mean, the status and trends are always interesting to see how they're shifting year over year. Weather events are something I'm really paying attention to this year because it's been such a brutally cold, snowy winter in many, many parts of the Northeast, the Midwest, certainly many parts of Canada. So I'm always curious to see how bird numbers are as we're sort of facing these really bitter cold periods. I did just see a headline, I haven't read the article, but one of my favorite birds, the American woodcock, Because of the coldness in the coastal Cape May area, they've seen a lot of these birds dying,
Oh my
literally,
goodness.
because it's just so cold. I hope that's not true this year, but it is one of the reasons why these events are so important, because in order to sort of be understanding what's going on in our natural world, birds act as an eco indicator, and they really help us understand how the environment is doing through the lens of looking at birds and how birds are faring. So I'm very curious to see what numbers are like this year because of how cold and icy and snowy it's been.
Yes, and it's interesting that it must be neat to look at because you get submissions, like you said, from all over the world. Is there anything that, and maybe this is a dumb question, but has there ever been a time where there's been some big surprise where like, where did this person see this bird? Why did this happen? Are there always those or rarely?
Oh, there are those. We often, as a part of our final results for GBBC, we love to highlight rare and unusual birds that are seen all over the place. Okay. And that actually can sometimes go up with significant weather events because birds will sometimes get caught in storms and they end up much further away than they're normally living. So we see that happening. We see birds that are normally seen in the US, in Europe. We see birds that are normally seen in Africa, in China. So yeah, it's very fascinating to see how birds sometimes end up in places very far away from where we normally see them, where we normally see their range.
Now, how long have you been involved in the Great Backyard Bird Count? You personally?
I think this is my 6th year.
Okay.
I took it over about 6 years ago, and before that, we didn't actually use the Merlin tool. That was one of the big things that we changed when I came on board because the Merlin tool was becoming so successful and popular, and we did want to make it easier for people who are newer to birds to participate. So that was the big change when I came on board.
And what, I guess, fuels your passion for this?
That's a really good question. I've always been an environmental minded person. And when I was in my early 20s, I realized that birds were one of these really powerfully captivating groups of animals that kind of inspired people to pay attention in a way that a lot of things don't, mostly because birds are everywhere. So if you can talk to people through bird conservation, you're pretty relevant wherever you are in the world because birds are really everywhere in the world and they're very accessible, right? It's not like you have to have an ID tool to look at a flower where there's this really cool bee or butterfly. They're much more, they're bigger, they're more vibrant, their behavior is fascinating. And so birds to me not only are cool in and of itself, but they help, it helps me to be able to talk to people about why the environmental world is so important and why the planet's so important because we share it with these really incredible organisms.
Now, you also, just because I have your time here, tell me about Garden for Birds. I know I've thrown you for a loop because we're talking the Great Backyard Bird Count, but you're here and I want to use your time wisely.
I love that. Thank you. So Garden for Birds is my passion.
Oh, okay.
That's my
so this is just a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, they're both my passion. But my big personal love is creating habitat for birds.
Okay.
And one of the things I love about this is it's a natural segue from people who are maybe doing GBBC and starting to pay attention to the birds, and they think, wow, I really like seeing birds. How do I have more birds and different kinds of birds around my property or community? And so Garden for Birds is about that. It's about trying to guide people in understanding the different native plants that they can add in their area to better support birds, to feed birds, to provide shelter for birds, to provide nesting habitat. Sure. As well as like things that we can do around our homes, like protect our windows so birds don't collide into them. So Garden for Birds is really about helping to inspire people to create safer spaces for birds.
Now, I have on the bottom of the screen about the Great Backyard Bird Count with the website, but where can people find out more about Garden for Birds?
gardenforbirds.org.
Okay. Well, you guys got the best screen names. Birdcount.org. You somehow got that. How do you pull those ones off? But again,
I'm not sure.
It's the Great Backyard Bird Count. It's coming out February 13th and through the 16th, excuse me. And to find out more, birdcount.org. Thanks for giving us so much time this morning. This is fun. I can't wait to hear how the results panned out.
Great. Thanks for having us on your show.
I'd love to have you on for Garden for Birds maybe a little bit later on. All right?
Wonderful.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer, who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman and Gordon toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
Allegiance flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why Ona sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation, detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
From a pilot perspective, flying into a hurricane goes against how we are trained, which is avoid weather. Always, always, always respect the storm.
We fly all 4 quadrants of that storm, and what we're doing is investigating to see where the winds are. If there's going to be a circular pattern that forms. If there's a circular formation, we know we have a storm. If we had not been providing that information, how many more lives would have been lost?
Saving property, saving lives. Start your adventure.
So frankly speaking, Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Let's go to some viewer comments here. We need to ditch New York City, Albany, and Buffalo and form our own state, separate from these deranged cities. We don't need any financial support from them or otherwise support, i.e., we can sell them our energy and agricultural products, as well as provide the plethora of jobs that would flood our new state as a result of being business friendly. Let's get it done now. Thank you very much. Comment from Mark. Why don't the Republicans use the same trick the Democrats do? If you don't vote yes for people to show ID to vote, we'll shut the government down. Well, because that's not a part of the budget. It's a bill, but they don't have the sway over a bill. It would be a great idea to include it. But that is already passed. But yeah, there's got to be some tactic. I mean, it's uncertain, to say the least, if it'll go through the Senate because they need that 60-vote threshold. But I like the creative thinking. Thank you, Mark. Ken writes in, while I feel for the Guthrie family's loss, I fear that the 24/7 coverage in all media is a disservice to the other news happening around the country. It certainly takes the focus off of Minnesota fraud, the impending government shutdown, and the impending midterms. Thank goodness that, frankly speaking, is still focused on what is happening behind the scenes in our political world. Thank you, Ken. Yes, that is a tragic story, one that is covered 24/7 to say the least. It is a lot of coverage. So I appreciate your sentiment, though, because there is a lot of news out there. Now, we mentioned Mamdani. We saw Assemblyman Phil Palmisano grilling New York Mayor Ron Mamdani. And if you are just joining us and if you missed this announcement time and time again, Phil was appointed the ranking member on the Ways and Means Committee. That was a huge victory, not just for Albany, but for us. So great news there. Well, Mamdani, did you see he miraculously found $5 billion for his New York City budget after, and it's that same old tactic that is used over and over again in politics, after pushing a doomsday scenario as his excuse for tax hikes. So Mamdani miraculously found billions of dollars in under 2 weeks since he declared a doomsday budget scenario, leaving city insiders blasting the reckless math being used to justify the Democrat-Socialist push to raise taxes. He confessed Wednesday while testifying before the New York State Legislature that the looming budget gap for this and next fiscal year had been reduced from a doomsday projection of $12 billion to $7 billion in less than 2 weeks. Quote, what we have seen in the time since that press conference is not only the incorporation of the increased economic forecast, as well as Wall Street bonuses, but also an aggressive savings plan, as well as all the use of our reserves. Now, yesterday, and the reason why he spoke, and at that hearing, it's called Tin Cup Day. in Albany. It's when the mayor, not just Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City comes to the legislature and essentially, hence the name Tin Cup Day, begs for money. And now that Phil Palmisano is on the member of the Ways and Means Committee, ranking member, excuse me, I had that opportunity to question him, and we had that great clip, and we appreciate the Assemblyman for sending that our way. So some are left scratching their heads over this miraculous fine of $5 billion. When his budget director, Sharif Solomon, divulged how much the massive pots of money meant and added revenue for city coffers. For the current year, Solomon said the revenue was underestimated by $2.4 billion, which would more than close the gap of $2.2 billion. The respected budget whiz added that next year's revenue would come in at a whopping $4.8 billion, higher than previously released. The billions more in revenue is exactly what Governor Hochul and other city insiders knew was coming this month, since the books had not been fully calculated when the mayor held a news conference sounding the alarm on the budget gap. So again, this is a typical, you see it, let's face it, if you want to bring it all the way down to the local level, you see it with school budget time, right? We're going to need 100 million, I'm just using made up numbers, we're going to need 100 million, and then when everybody comes outraged, or let's say a 10% increase, and everybody becomes outraged, they say, 10%, are you kidding? And they'll say, no, never mind. After it gets voted down once, never mind. We did a lot of cutting, and it's only 8%. Well, if you would have got the 8% originally, you would have been outraged by the 8%. But it's the old game where they push the doomsday scenario for an excuse to tax, and somehow, because they figured the numbers before the actual numbers came out, they found that $5 billion. He also had some very head-scratching reasons why he wants to hike taxes. It's almost as if he just wants to hike taxes because it was a campaign promise for him. He justified his crusade, get this, to understand a little bit of the mindset of maybe a Democrat Socialist of America candidate. He justified his crusade to hike taxes on wealthy New Yorkers by saying the Big Apple is already the most expensive place to live in the country. That's how you justify becoming more expensive for your residents and increasing their taxes? He testified, and when he was pressed to give a reason why he was calling on the state to okay a 2% hike on income taxes for residents who rake in more than $1 million, he said, I think the why comes from the fact that we are the most expensive city in the United States. There simply isn't enough money that we wish there could be. If we take that approach year after year, what happens is we do see the exodus that's happening right now for working middle-class people leaving the city, leaving the state, trying to find a place where the ends can be a little bit easier to meet. So you are going to make things, well, this goes to show, and people bought into it. That's why he won overwhelmingly, that the affordability crisis would be saved by these giveaways, and these giveaways, of course, paid for by the taxpayer. So his justification for increasing taxes, just to understand this, justification for increasing taxes is because New York City and New York State is already too expensive to live in. If you can explain that to me, I'd appreciate it. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
When winter weather hits the Twin Tiers, the road changes fast, and your tires should keep up. At Tire World, we're here to make sure you're ready for every snowy morning, icy curb, and late-night drive home. From all season to dedicated snow tires, our experts help you find the perfect fit for your car, your budget, and the way you drive. Fast service, trusted brands, and safety you can feel every mile. Don't wait for the first storm and roll into winter with confidence. Tire World of Corning, family service you can trust.
At the Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, we provide students with a variety of community-based and academic opportunities and a fresh start. Located on the Corning Community College campus, students earn high school credits and gain real-world experiences through community service, internships, art partnerships, and work opportunities, experiences they value for a lifetime. Our students find a place to reconnect and succeed. The Corning Painted Post High School Learning Center, turning fresh starts into future success.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. A couple comments from viewers. Of course they found money. Trump's plans are kicking in and the economy is getting better. So much for doom and gloom on the economy. Exactly. Regarding, this is from a different viewer, regarding electric school buses and the like, it was reported that these electric vehicles sat unusable due to the recent cold snap we went through. Yes, we had that quickly in a program that Fox News was reporting on it, that it was another signal about these failed kind of EV mandates. Specifically, they came about during the Biden administration. Now, I had mentioned that they put together a ranking of 1 to 670 about the 2025, graduation rates. And you can look at every school district. And, you know, for instance, right here, the first 20 are all tied at 1% or ranked at 1% because they all had 100% graduation rate. So I thought, well, why not look for some local areas? And you can feel free, and this is just New York for our PA friends. But for instance, Elmira City School District, their graduation rate was at 76%. So that's ranked at 615 out of 670. And that is also tied by Elmira Heights School District, 76% graduation rate, at tied for 615. If you look at, for instance, Horseheads, and it always helps if you spell Horseheads right, they have a graduation rate, sorry, the plow is going by, they have a graduation rate of 92%, so they rank 256, so much better there. And let's look at one last one, and you can feel free to weigh in at any time if you want me to look up your school district. Corning City School District, graduation rate 86%. That puts them ranked at 461. And again, that's ranked from 1 to 670. You can find that at the Empire Report. I just thought it was interesting to look at those numbers. So we can, I got to take a break, but we can wrap up today's edition by talking a little bit. I know we've glanced over it, but the Pam Bondi fiery testimony. We also have a few other updates, so stay with us. We got to take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Accidents happen. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
When it comes to cleaning your house or business, Magic Rags Cleaning Service has you covered from ceiling to floor. With powerful steam cleaning and attention to detail, we have you covered for moving out cleans, move-in cleans, Airbnbs, or just keeping everything neat and tidy. We go above and beyond in our residential and commercial cleaning, and our professional crew makes sure that your house or business is always ready for company. Call our number or schedule an appointment on Yelp or Facebook today.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for checking in. 28 out there today. That is going to be below average by almost 10 degrees. We're going to see that snow and maybe a minor coating. Still breezy out there with those northwesterly winds gusting at times close to 20 miles per hour, helping that cooler air to hang around here. Some sunshine pushing in tomorrow, 34 degrees, warming up into the weekend. Could be missed by just a little light wintry mix Saturday night into early Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So, getting last second waves in. Pam Bondi and her 5-hour House Judiciary hearing Well, let's take a look at what the mainstream media had to say. CNN said she had a combative but dicey Epstein strategy. Dicey? Okay. Boy, the media's starting to love Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is the Republican that got combative with her. 2, Massie drew some blood in key exchange. 3, a reprieve from the nastiness. There was a moment when there was kind of a back and forth that wasn't as fiery. 4, the hearing pointed to the administration's many problems. Wow, okay. And 5, a couple Bondi volleys didn't land. So according to CNN, nothing was successful for Bondi. Everything was questionable. She did at one point call Jamie Raskins a washed-up loser lawyer. And she was not taking the kind of smear campaign, the aggressiveness from her, trying to silence her, not let her answer. She was not taking that, and it did get to points where it was name-calling. Raskins said, "You're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal government violence against citizens in Minneapolis." Wow. Homicidal government violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims, was his big takeaway. Raskins at one point saying you can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch, not on our time, no way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started. Raskins, playing the tough guy, I told you about that. I warned you about that, yelling at Pam Bondi. That's when Pam Bondi erupted. You don't tell me anything. You're a washed-up loser lawyer, not even a lawyer. So Bondi then rounded on Nadler, saying, "You said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it." Comment from Mark, he said, oops, "I didn't watch all of the Bondi hearing, but what I did see, she held her ground. Hats off to her. Have a great day." Thank you, Mark. Have a great day. This is a perfect time to wrap up today's discussion. Oh, here's another comment. Mark started the broadcast with this. This is a different viewer saying, "I got a call from NYSEG saying the cost of electric will be much higher because of the cold. Thank you, Governor Hochul." Yes, there's going to be a lot of outrage when those bills come in after that cold streak of the whole winter, it feels like. So thank you for those last second comments. I want to thank our guest, Becca Bish, with a great backyard bird count. That starts tomorrow, runs through the 16th. You can find out more at birdcount.org. I want to thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for sending in that video from the hearing where he got to grill New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani. We do appreciate that. Tomorrow, we're going to learn a little bit about Corning Painted Post High School's Winter Guard International, which is Saturday and Sunday. We're going to find out all about it. We're going to learn together because I don't know all about it either. And so we're excited to have our guests on. Don't forget one last public service announcement because we had so many great guests. Yesterday, if you missed Hornell Mayor John Buckley, that is up on our YouTube page. It's also on WYDCTV.com. You can find that right there with our in-depth interview exclusive with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. But earlier in the week, we heard a great song from the Mark Twain Chorus. They're still taking reservations for the Singing Valentines, and that is just $45 each, and a quartet sings 2 songs. You receive a lovely Valentine's flower and a card for your sweetheart. So if you need information on that, if you're looking for last-minute gift ideas, please, because you can book tomorrow or the 14th. So if you want that information, you see the number on the bottom of the screen. You can reach out to me at any time. Love to hear from you. Love to pass along that information for a great group of guys, and they sounded great, that's for sure. So again, tomorrow, Corning Painted Post High School Winter Guard International. We've got quite a lineup next week as well. So thanks for joining us this morning. We covered a lot. Have a great day, and we will be back bright and early tomorrow morning, starting with 6 a.m. with Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV Big Fox. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.